So just a few weeks back, on the 21st of July actually, BBC reported that the director of HMV, now that's a store in the UK, His Master's Voice, it's been around for literally a century, that sells physical media, vinyl, you know, kind of pop culture, film merchandise and stuff. He announced that the sale of their visual media, which is Blu-ray and DVD, was up, right? Because my understanding is that, you know, physical media is dying. You see it everywhere. You see YouTubers talking about it. You see clickbait articles saying how it's dead, physical media is dying, streaming's taking over. And to be fair, they make a good point. The numbers do prove that it's on the way down. However, I don't really think it'll disappear for good, and I actually think it's in a kind of healthy place. So I just thought I'd use this news story to kind of, for one, share it with you in case you'd missed it, and explain why I think it's a good thing, and it's a sign that physical media is actually in a healthy place. It's going through a transformation, it's not dying. So I'm going to be discussing that article and giving you my thoughts on why I think the sale of physical media is up, and why I think ultimately it's a good time actually to get into collecting if you haven't already. So if you're hitting the channel up for the first time, I'm Andy, your Electric Geek, and on this channel I mainly cover 4K Blu-ray reviews, I cover physical media, I do collection videos, I do unboxings, and I talk about home cinema as well. So if this is the first time you've stumbled across the channel, then please consider subscribing for that kind of content. But yeah, back to this news, which I think is really positive. I'm going to read it out verbatim, some of the stuff that's on it. So as I say, it was covered by the BBC here on the 21st of July. And ultimately the kind of subheading was, more shoppers are buying Blu-ray and DVDs of movies and TV shows despite the rising streaming platforms, the boss of HMV has claimed. Mr. Halliday said that physical visual sales had increased, adding that 4K and Blu-ray have been doing particularly well, but figures suggest sales across the industry are still declining. He further goes on to say, when streaming first came out, I think a lot of people saw it as cheap and with huge breadth of choice, but I'm not sure people see it like that now, he said. People are willing to pay for a physical copy of shows or films they know they will rewatch. So that's some of the kind of key points from it. He also does go on to say that the overall sales are down from 2022. I'll link the article so you can have a look at it in detail yourself. But last year, HMV alone still took in 169.7 million in just physical media sales alone. So there is still a kind of healthy revenue there. It goes on to talk about, obviously, the rise of streaming has caused the kind of rapid decline of the need for physical media, because your casual movie viewers will just subscribe to these streaming platforms. You don't need to have the hardware, you don't have to go out and buy films individually, you don't have to leave your house. You can just obviously click a button on your remote and that's you subscribed, and you do get a breadth of choice on these platforms, and the platforms are growing. We keep getting new ones, you know, you've got Disney Plus now, you've got Paramount, you've got all these little kind of smaller ones like Studio Canal, MGM that are popping up on the Amazon Prime site. So that's not going anywhere, that's going to keep going and going and going, streaming. It's obviously here to stay, it's how people consume their media. But I definitely think there's still a place for physical media. In the article, the managing director, Phil Halliday, goes on to kind of give some of his reasons as to why he thinks Blu-ray and DVD sales are on the rise, but I'm just going to give you mine basically, right? So let's start with streaming to start with. Now, streaming is very convenient. I own hundreds of Blu-rays and 4K Blu-rays and the odd DVD, but I still stream. I am subscribed currently to Amazon Prime. I have been subscribed to Netflix in the past, but I've kind of cut back, and I used to also use Sky TV, but I've cut all that back because I found it got to the point where I was paying well over £100 for these subscription services. I wasn't watching them enough, and a lot of the original content they put out, it just didn't do anything for me. You know, it's not always of a high standard. So for me, I would just rather spend that money on something I want. On a 4K Blu-ray, I'm fortunate enough to have a good setup here. I've got a cracking OLED TV, I've also got a projector and a 4K Blu-ray player and a decent sound system. So I get the most out of 4K Blu-rays, and I get to watch my movies in the highest quality. I don't have to worry about internet connection. I get my audio uncompressed, because streaming platforms, although you can get the latest formats like Dolby Atmos, 5.1 surround, it's compressed because that's the kind of easiest way for them to deliver that audio to you. And yes, you're getting 4K, but that's dependent on your internet and obviously how much you're willing to spend on your internet to get that kind of high bandwidth, so that you get a good bit rate when streaming from Amazon Prime, Netflix, etc. You get a steady bit rate and you get it kind of raw and uncompressed when it's on a 4K Blu-ray or a Blu-ray for that matter. Streaming can be totally paralysing. You end up on it for ages. I've seen myself spend 30 minutes, 40 minutes trying to kind of pick something, and then you end up picking something and you don't even like it or whatever, or it's something you've seen before or you maybe have on Blu-ray. Whereas I think when you buy a film, you've bought that film, you take it home and you're going to watch it because you've just spent money on it and you have it there. It's the only one you have, and you put it in and you watch it. So there's something in that as well that kind of takes away that paralysis. And then there's the obvious point that it's a physical thing that you have. Nobody can come into your home and take it away from you. It has its own artwork. If it's a collector's edition, it might come with booklets, cards. It might have different cuts of the film, which you're not going to get on the streaming site. You'll probably just get the theatrical release or whatever. So if you're a big fan of the movie, then you're going to want it on Blu-ray, so you've got the associated special features and stuff, which you don't tend to get on streaming either. And then on streaming platforms, you know, you have to continue your subscription to access that movie, say, that is your favourite. Or even if you are continuing to pay a subscription, they have to rotate the libraries. They lose the licence for certain films. They go to different platforms. So it might be on Netflix or Disney Plus currently, but that's not to say it'll be there next month, in 6 months, in a year. So if it's a favourite film and you have a player that you can play it on, then you're always better, in my opinion. And it's cheaper actually, just buying a physical copy of it, and you have it there, and it's the best value and nobody can take it away from you. So that's kind of why I think people are starting to maybe buy more physical media, because streaming is imploding somewhat. It's not going to go away, but people are finding it too hard to subscribe to everything. You've got all these different studios coming out with their own platforms, and they're clawing all their property back, exclusive to their houses, if you like, which means you have to subscribe to bloody everything if you want to have that breadth of choice that previously, 5-10 years ago, you maybe only had to have Netflix and Amazon and you had everything. So people are getting tired basically and don't want to part with their money, and they're looking for a cheaper alternative. You can buy a DVD of the latest movie for $9.99, and after a few months you'll pick DVDs up for pennies, a fiver, or if you go into second-hand shops you'll get them for like 50 pence, a pound, but more on second-hand physical media later. Another reason I think people are splashing out is because it's coming nostalgic. Blu-ray released, I think, in 2006, don't quote me, but it was around about that time, the mid-noughties. DVD was like 96 or 97 or something like that. You're pushing 20 to 30 years ago. People are starting to get nostalgic for it, maybe in the same way vinyl has had a resurgence. I think we might see that with physical media. Yes, it's changing. It's no longer the way that everybody watches their movies. It's getting to the point where you can't just go into any house and expect them to have a DVD player or Blu-ray player. They maybe did at one point, but it's broken and they've not replaced it because they have streaming services and whatnot. But people that are into it, are proper movie fans, or love the certain movies that they want to collect, they have that nostalgia for it. They remember it. They remember Blockbuster Video. They remember renting VHS tapes, DVD and all that. And they want to relive that. So I think that's why people also are willing to buy. It's a kind of cool thing to do. There's now a bustling online community. You've got guys like me on YouTube, you've got Instagram, Facebook, you've got groups where people share their collections, pictures of it, talk about it, do live streams, you name it. So it's a different landscape now. Yes, physical media is dying, as they say. However, it's just became more niche, and you've got all these labels popping up, and even the big studios are taking notice of the fact that you've got hardened, dedicated collectors that aren't going anywhere, that love the picture quality, that love to kind of immortalise their love for these films in the form of collector's box sets or whatever, steelbooks, and they're catering for that now. Yes, they're more expensive if you want the kind of collector's stuff, but it's a great time to be a collector because there's an abundance of these kind of collector sets now. There's all your niche boutique labels like Arrow Video, Second Sight, to name a few. And you've got the choice there. You're not going to get these kind of forgotten movies that have been rediscovered and been given the 4K or the Blu-ray treatment by these kind of boutique labels on, say, your mainstream platforms like Amazon or Netflix. I feel like I'm picking on Amazon and Netflix, but they are the two big ones, I suppose. But ultimately, for all those kind of reasons I've listed there, I think that is why physical media is actually in a good place. We're a smaller community now, we're a niche community, but we're thriving, and we're getting better sets, a wider selection of movies than we've ever had before, and a different range of collector's sets, be it steelbooks, be it collector's editions and whatnot. So I think it's alive and well, and it's really encouraging that HMV are reporting that sales are up, and I'm not overly surprised, and I think it will continue to go up. It will never get back to where it was. That's impossible. Streaming's here to stay. Times have changed. But I do think there's a place for it, and I think it will grow to the point that it's on a kind of par with where vinyl is now. So if you don't currently collect, or you did collect but you kind of stopped, then maybe consider starting again and saving yourself a few bob. As I said earlier, it's so easy to start your collection now, especially if you want Blu-ray or just DVD. You can just go into these places like CEX, eBay, you can use Facebook Marketplace. There's so many places you can go now, and a lot of people are just trying to offload their physical media collection, so you can pick up Blu-rays, you know, for £1, £2. It'll rival the quality of HD and even 4K on a streaming service, and you'll get uncompressed audio on that also. So I think it's a great time to be getting into it, and then, you know, once you get a bit more serious and you maybe upgrade to a 4K TV or a 4K player, you can really splash out on those kind of fancy, more expensive formats, the collector's editions, etc. But that's enough on what I think. Let me know what you think. Do you think physical media is having a resurgence, or do you think it's as good as dead and buried and it's only a matter of time? Let me know in the comments below, and be sure to check out the full article for yourself. Just quickly before I go as well, I have actually done a video on my local HMV, so maybe if you're watching from overseas out with the UK and you want to know what HMV is all about, what the store looks like, then of course you can click on that video and have a wee look at what my local store looks like in Ayr. And if you've never bought from HMV before, you'll also find the link for the Mention Me discount, which will get you 20% off your first order from HMV if you're a first time customer, or you just have another email address. So maybe a partner or something has an email address and has never shopped there before, get 20% off your first order. But that's it for this one. Good news for physical media fans out there. Remember, you can subscribe to the channel for more physical media type videos, and hopefully I'll see you in the next one.